All right, welcome to another episode of DUCKit. Today we have Sherin. Thanks for being here, Sherin. Sherin
Thanks.
runs her own boutique, talent sourcing, and artistic entertainment shop. Hi, Sherin. Thanks for being here. Would love for you to introduce yourself.
Hi guys, thanks for having me. Yeah, my name is Sherin Al Alami. I'm the founder and artistic director of entertainment agency based in the UAE, servicing the region. Um, and we have been around since 2015. Spreading our wings, I guess, kind of.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate having you on the show. So, odd question. Let's break the ice. How's business?
What with it? Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Um, well, our business was, I think, one of the first to be kind of just affected. We feed
absolutely. Yeah.
heavily into tourism and hospitality. So we saw the early signs. I think it was last week of February, even though we had some events confirmed for the first 2 weeks of March. And it was just kind of abrupt. It was hotels complete panic,
Yeah.
from the big guys to the small guys. So um, it is also, just keep in mind, so it's not entirely just the crisis, it's also off season for us. So that also plays into that. But it was very much linked to the obviously the pandemic. And
Yeah.
funny enough, before there was even announcement by Wu, the hotels just kind of jumped ship right away.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of obvious. I think entertainment and anything that has to do with physical experiences were probably the first and worst hit. F&B we're seeing slowly come back online. How are you kind of seeing the future of your business come, let's say September, October when the season picks back up? Are you
Yeah.
optimistic?
Yeah, I'm quite optimistic. I do think that there, with anything, if hospitality is were to survive out here, it definitely needs to be serviced by entertainment events. It needs eventually, the next step in that would be to just entertain your guests that are happen to be in your venues, outlets, restaurants, whatnot. So I'm not quite sure if it's what quarter it's going to be, but I do think maybe October, November, with the right processes in place. I mean, similar, a spin-off off of like maybe the travel processes, or how do people enter a restaurant, how do people social distance in restaurants or events. I do see it coming back to life slowly. um, I do think there has to be very, very strong health and safety procedures, though. Our events will no longer be big, that's for sure. I mean, I think we didn't feed into the concert level, which is sadly, I think, gone for 2020. But in terms of corporate events, private events, wedding events, F&B, it's just going to be a bit smaller. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely,
yeah,
definitely. What's your kind of view on talent? Because talent generally, I assume, are freelancers or
yeah.
part-timers. What how does that kind of space look like today? Like,
Yeah.
in terms of artistic talent in the region, I mean, for the obvious, visa and ability to be here reasons, how is that kind of shaping up? I mean,
Yeah.
how does
So
that industry survive?
yeah, there is a huge pool of talent in the UAE. It's very much driven by the freelance kind of self uh, motivated, independent artist, which comes at an expense. When you're running yourself as a business, and not so much as an artist. So we have a lot. Talent is great out here. My company is one of the companies maybe less slightly controversial, because we use a mix of international and local, given the
Mhm.
requirements. So we kind of, dabble in, if there's nothing available here, our clients, we give them options from Europe and abroad. But like I said, there is a huge environment and world for the talent here. I think of all the restaurants, hotels, pubs, bars, weddings. It's just not, I mean, maybe it's quite, shouldn't be saying that, entirely fully regulated yet at the moment. It comes at a huge price tag to be a talent out here. The license fees, even to get permissions to perform in restaurants, there's something called the DTCM permission with Dubai Tourism that everyone
Yeah,
has to pay, even if it's one-time event, or a contract in a restaurant or a hotel. So it is, the logistics are still very, in depth.
challenging. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And I'm assuming then, so for these freelancers, for that kind of artistic talent, they haven't had a gig since February and probably won't have one until
yeah.
October.
Such a sad situation, because our the nature of our work is no gigs, no work, or no gigs, no pay. So we are very much driven by that model. I mean, no one is entirely around the world. salaried by a company. And even if they are, the contractual agreements usually is, well, these are the seasons, these are the number of shows you're going to do, and if anything happens, we need to just revise those contracts. So we are very much in the present, sadly. Yeah. So yeah,
So,
right.
so what does that mean to the talent pool, right? I mean, if the gigs are dry for what, like, 8 to 10 months of 2020, and that means no income, are we seeing that talent pool become kind of more scarce? Are people leaving the region? Are people,
So, yeah,
you know, doing different jobs
it's such
and
a
changing
scary
their
time because
profession?
yeah, you can't really gauge. So I've spoken to so many talents. It's quite personal. Depends how they live their lifestyle. If they are the type of
Yeah,
talent that was, a bit responsible and saved their money and picked up their salaries and put it aside, it's just like any other model. But the model here is it's an 8 month kind of dry spell job loss. So it depends. Sadly, a lot of them, unfortunately, a lot of artists are very free spirited and they live month to month or 2 months to months, at the most, maybe three. I don't want to generalize or stereotype, but
sure.
that's usually the case. I think a lot of talent has opted to start teaching online, go back into, most of them were just kind of against that because who wants to, if you're a live musician, go into, necessarily teaching. So I
Yeah.
think a lot of them have had to look into that route. I don't know if they've entirely, because done it yet, because school, I think starts in September or maybe in August. So some of them are going to start having to look at that. A lot have left the region. There's no way people can be out here,
Sustain.
yeah, sustain themselves for 8 months. And then others maybe are looking for other jobs in other industries. Um, they might have a different skill set they can utilize, and I hope maybe they do, just for this
Yeah.
period. Yeah.
In the conversations you've had with the talent people who have left the region, is that kind of, are you seeing that as a temporary kind of basis until things start to slowly pick up? Because you said that you get like a down season and a high
Yeah.
season, so
So
typically they would probably migrate away anyway and then perhaps come back.
exactly. So what happens usually around Ramadan, we have the 1 month off for religious purposes and entertainment's not permitted. So most of the talent, because this last 2-3 years has been timed around the summer season and our off season, they tend to migrate to their home countries or go on holiday, and then they return for peak season, which is usually August, September, when all the contracts and events, start popping back up. I'm seeing that a lot. No one, there's so much uncertainty, so no one really knows what is happening. I know a lot, the ones that have left are saying, though, we'll be back when things pick up or clear up or there's more certainty in the region. Me being here and being a company, I'm getting every day bombarded by messages of talent that, hey, how's it going? Has things picked up? We've seen the news, it started slowly opening up the city. So everyone's just kind of on standby.
Yeah.
Completely.
Have you seen any breakthrough like talent that's managed to kind of take that shift and really amplify themselves online a bit more? You said about teaching, but have you started to see some really try to evolve and adapt?
Yeah.
Like
Well,
we've seen in fitness space,
yeah,
you see kind of that industry really shifting and changing. Like
yeah.
in this space, are you starting to see that change there?
Yeah, we have. Well, we took initiative and put together a really amazing virtual video, music video for all our exclusive talent. We invited a handful of freelancers to join us. I think it was about 10 artists based in Argentina, Cuba, Manchester, Dubai, London, a little bit of everywhere. And we put together a nice video, a rendition of Lean on Me for Bill Withers, given, his passing this year. So that was a huge hit, lots of views. We've gone virtual with that. We're all working on our second and third video. So we do understand the importance of virtual space. It is, you need to just, I know everybody's hurting in the music industry, and musicians and artists deal with things a bit differently. It's a bit heavier and darker times. We're a bit more emotional. But being the company owner and the businesswoman I am, I had to push the talent and say, guys, we need to do this, So you have seen, and I'm speaking specifically for our talent, we did take initiative and do one and I'll share it with you guys after this, really nice video that was very touching for a lot of people. Yeah.
That's awesome. We've seen. I'm quite a fan of online kind of content, especially
Yeah.
music content and online concerts. And there's this one band, I actually shared it on our work group yesterday, Steve. I don't know if you watched it, but this band called Rufus. Rufus du Sol, I think it is.
Yeah.
And they did this concert in March on YouTube, and you can watch it in super HD, and it's like an hour long at the Joshua Tree, and it was super amazing, and we're starting to see that more and more. Are you seeing kind of that transition in the UAE? Are you seeing artistic talent use, I guess, online mediums more, or are you still seeing people keep their head in the sand and kind of
No,
wait
I
for the
have. I
season?
think just last week, Flash Entertainment for Eid Holiday did an amazing concert. It was completely virtual and live. They had the luxury of having a nice studio. So given the social distancing and the pandemic rules, I think some talent went into studio on their own with their band members and you can tell there was at least 2 meter space. The drummer, because with a band, you cannot be apart. You need to be close. You need to hear each other. So you saw that there was a lot of, all of them were local artists from the likes of, I think, Hamdan Abri, Leila Kardan. I can't remember entirely the whole roster, but really cool, amazing talent from the UAE here. So yeah, that was the first of many that I saw through Flash Entertainment, and they took great initiative to do that. It was really nice, yeah.
Amazing. And how do they distribute the content? Is it all on the free channels on social media, or is it on their own channels?
It should be on the free on their own content on their medias, and then I think streamed live. I think via artists, everyone's resharing, tagging. So it is definitely all free and available on everyone's channels, artists and platforms.
And
crazy to think how. Sorry, I was going to say it's crazy to think how like a concert is going to be like when you think about it in the future, right? Because you know like the silent disco, right? And you're there, you just with your earphones in, and you're having a run. Now you'll have your earphones in, and you'll be in your little cubicle, and you'll be kind of like I don't know. For me,
or you'll be in your
my mind.
circle, or you'll be in your circle. You know how they
circle space.
Yeah, that's strange. Really strange. Quick random question to kind of shift the conversation a bit. Saudi Arabia has opened up quite a lot. They've created public entities and a lot of private companies that have been super well funded and supported, like Middle East, etc. Have been hosting some amazing events, attracting some talent to the region that we would have never imagined.
I know.
How does that impact kind of your business in terms of here in the UAE? How does it impact kind of the interest of talent abroad? How is the region being kind of perceived globally for a place to perform? Has that changed at all?
No, actually, it's a great impact. Saudi is right next door, and we've had numerous inquiries and interest, and we are still a very boutique company. So, it's the big guys that are running with the big initiatives, but we can definitely cross collaborate. I do think that talent can be anywhere. Of course, it can be here. I represent talent in the UK, in Paris, and if you're the right person to curate the right talent for the right gig or the right performance or event, it's a great opportunity, and we feed into the region. So for us, we were just waiting for our big call, and I think after all this passes over, I wish Saudi all the best, because we'd love to get out there. It'd be so interesting to be part of this movement, especially with the music.
Absolutely. And do you think the international artistic community is now more aware and more interested in the region as a whole because of Saudi Arabia's kind of, new entrance into the entertainment world, or do you think that's kind of unchanged and we've always been, I guess?
I think we've always been. Oh gosh, Abu Dhabi and Dubai. I remember seeing a concert in 2006, Coldplay in the rain. Like, it was just one of my most iconic concerts. Dubai does it, and UAE does a really good job at hosting huge concerts, events, parties, launches, hotels. So, I mean, we set the precedent here. So I'm not being biased because I'm from here and I've seen it all grow. And I've taken a complete turn in career to join this kind of buzz. But I think Saudi's doing a great job, and I think they're just, they're catching up really quick. And I think that there's going to be a lot of collaborations from here. I mean, a lot of the talent comes and goes easily. Visas are a bit easier to get now in the last 2-3 months, I think since December. We know it's going to Saudi is like going to Abu Dhabi in our industry now, the last 2 months.
And, obviously, you're from here, you've been in the region for a long time, but I also, I've also, spent some time with you in Montreal.
I'm not from
but,
where you're from.
But the question I was going to ask is,
Yeah.
how is kind of the difference between those two markets when you think about entertainment, when you think about talent, when you think about kind of the overall environment for what you do?
Yeah.
Is there a big difference between the two markets?
Oh, it's absolutely different. There, it's a developed market, established. It's been years. I mean, the Jazz Festival, Osheaga, all these big festivals, they've been around for, if not 20 years, 30, 40, you know. The amount of experience in that city,
Yeah,
talent, the know-how, the authenticity, you know, the ease of like delivery. They make it look like it's flawless. So someone like me that goes to a festival in Montreal knows. I mean, I worked in festivals, even in film, and see how flawless it is. So yeah, that's something I aspire, and I think that's where I got inspired from, is to see, you know, that is so cool. Like, be it Cirque du Soleil, be it Osheaga, the Jazz Festival, walking to a public open air concert, all the Just for Laughs. So, I mean, we can't compare, with all due respect. And
sure.
Montreal is a secret little gem in terms of its cultural activities. Um, and they're so modest about it, to be honest with you. But they're
Yeah,
massive.
I mean, truth be told, I don't think you know this, but my first professional gig, my first job, was to work for a production company called Avant-Garde Video, who did all the production and audio video for the Jazz Fest, and I did
That's
that,
the coolest gig ever.
and I did that from 2000. I think it was 2004 to 2007, I think. And I did two jazz fests, and it changed my life forever because
Yeah,
of
the
the
rest.
work ethic, the
Yeah,
work ethic and the discipline and the hours and
yeah.
the. I mean, we did some shifts that were 14 hours straight.
Oh, I believe you.
So setups, takedowns, you know.
But the experience is you'll never forget it. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I completely
rush.
deviated. Yeah, yeah. I didn't stay in that field, but I mean, it was. I
They
think it
say
taught
once you
me.
do a festival, you can never
Yeah,
leave that world. And that's why they call it the circuit of festivals, because people go from festival to festival and gigs, and people are involved in sports events, the Olympics. You just do that rush. It's a rush.
yeah, and the work behind the scenes in
Yeah.
these events is just you really underestimate. And I think that's something I would definitely agree with you. It's they're so humble about it in Montreal. They're so humble about it in those kind of
Yeah.
developed markets because if you think about the amount of work, the lighting, the audio, the video, the programming, the whole
They're
technical
the best of the best, and they deal with it with a
wow,
stride, and it's like it's
amazing.
nothing. And I think a
Yeah,
lot of people look up to Montreal's summer cultural, even winter
yeah.
events, and come take a look, because they do it like it's just, oh, it's nothing. It's this is easy. And I'm like, and I can tell what they're doing, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing, super inspiring.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say Igloo Fest when I think
Yeah.
of the winter festivals.
I mean, an
Amazing. There's
80,000
nothing.
concert for U2 a few years back, flawless, in and out,
Yeah,
food, tickets, so, you know, things like that.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
take it for
Amazing,
granted. Yeah, there.
amazing.
I feel like this guy needs an invite to come to some like summer and winter
Yes,
fest in Montreal.
do. Usually it's July, June till about August. So
Yeah,
I was in
yeah,
Montreal. I was in Montreal that sort of time, and it was it's like May through to June
okay,
2009, long time ago.
that's a
But
while back.
I was a traveler at that point. I didn't have any money to me. I was just like kind of whatever was free I could get to.
Now that you know Chris and me, so you definitely get some. You need local help for that.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
And actually, I think Montreal is such an interesting city when it comes to the region as well, when it comes to the Middle East, because it is a city that a lot of Arabs, especially in Dubai and Saudi Arabia, that went to college outside
Yeah,
of the region, went to. I mean, I think it's one of like the five cities that the Arab kids went to. You know what I mean? There was London, there was
or
Yeah.
Montreal, there was Boston, there was LA, maybe a
I
couple
think it was
more.
Montreal majority. I just
Yeah,
keep
and the
people.
majority was Montreal. Absolutely. I remember, there was like 3 or 4 blocks in Montreal, which was like being in Saudi or being in Dubai.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like,
you're
so,
right. I remember.
yeah, so actually Montreal has played a big role, I think, in the talent development of this part of the world, which is kind of interesting when you think about it.
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
There's a lot of inspiration that the region kind of feeds off, and I think across the pond in Canada and even the U.S., we've always looked that way to kind of see where the world is going, see where culturally the world is going, etc. But recently, things have been a little bit kind of, challenging, different. What we're seeing, happening, especially in the U.S. recently, with kind of, what happened with George Floyd, with the current movements and the protests. We're seeing artists and celebrities, kind of weigh in. I really feel that we're probably at a turning point.
Yeah.
And I feel that, that this whole anti-racist movement is definitely a huge opportunity for humanity to kind of take a giant leap forward. I can't help, however, to feel that although I think we all recognize the importance and the weight of this moment, especially for the U.S., North America, and kind of the African American community over there, I still feel that we have a few demons of our own, I think, in the region, and I hope that type of momentum and movement kind of transfers here.
Yeah.
What's kind of like your view of what's going on, and how does that kind of play, I think, in the artistic community in your eyes, regionally or globally?
Yeah, I just think if no one's been affected internationally by this movement, there's something fundamentally wrong. I think the whole world has been, and
Yeah.
it has hit this region, be it politically, personally, emotionally. Any human has been affected. I mean, I do think there's a huge responsibility in the North American specific, I guess, let's be honest, the United States, in terms of the media and the celebrities. And that's why that movement happened on June 2nd, the Blackout Tuesday. The show must be paused, I think, or muted, both were used. It's important, and they need to know the responsibilities. When you get to that level and you have that audience listening, yeah, we need to take a bit of responsibility. And I do think that even out here, there's a lot of people that can relate. It's, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, everyone matters for that. And I think it's what happened with George Floyd is really a long debate. It's quite in depth and deep rooted in that society. But if anybody saw that video or heard about what happened and just has no opinion or feelings towards it, I'd be very surprised, to be honest with you.
No, and it's been kind of refreshing, by the way. I don't know about
Absolutely.
you guys. It's kind of been refreshing to see how the region has participated.
Yeah, there's been a lot from
Yeah, there's been a lot, and a lot of kind of association to other kind of I guess human causes in the region.
Mhm.
I think everyone can agree that what's happening in the U.S. or globally is a huge issue. But we've also, I think I've been kind of impressed to see some people speak out and associate it to other causes like Palestinian causes, etc. As one example. So I'm kind of hopeful as well, that the movement isn't just a social media
I mean,
post on
I
Tuesday.
see the biggest, sorry to interrupt you, the biggest, I think, voices came out of Syria and Palestine.
Yeah,
And simultaneously, sadly, there was even, similar, without getting too political, death the same time as George Floyd that had a huge
Yep.
impact, and in a similar manner by military or police authorities. So there
yeah,
is a huge correlation. I think if the world starts listening to each other, and ironically through a pandemic, it's the right time. We're all going through the same stuff around the world.
yeah.
So yeah, I think it
It's
definitely,
yeah. It's a super kind of, I think, important time in human history. I think
yeah,
it's time will tell the impact, and in terms of what you do, in terms of entertainment, in terms of talent, in terms of cultural experiences and stuff. History has proven that in times of darkness, a lot of people turn to art and culture and the
yeah.
way to kind of express themselves. I can only imagine the wave of kind of, I would say, artistic expression that's going to come out of all this. And I can only hope that the region also does it responsibly. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
I look forward to this movement kind of taking, I guess, a bigger step in kind of, spreading the right message.
I mean,
Hopefully.
hopefully it is a little bit of a dark time for artists. So if they can find inspiration, I'm so happy to hear that, because you have to understand, you mentioned it earlier, there's 8 months, no pay. There's not even anything going on, regardless of where you are. I'm sure they're getting subsidized in some parts of the world. But people here still have a very strange understanding towards artists, and the services that have been rendered. For instance,
Yep.
when you go into a coffee shop and you buy your cappuccino and drinking, it's done, you paid for it. For artists, there's still the whole, where do we lie? How come this person is still fighting for their money, or when are they going to get their job back? Because there's so much uncertainty. So I think we need to also in this region change the mindset towards you know, maybe commercial artists, because that's what we are. We feeding into the commercial and the corporate business side of things, you know, also culturally, but less so, you know,
Yeah.
that level of understanding, respect for the artistry. You know, it's not a background, it's not a DJ play or like a playback in an elevator. You go to school to learn how to play a guitar. I mean, some of my musicians that I have are from Berkeley Music School. That's a 1-year program out of Boston and Valencia, you know. So we need to change the mindset out here still.
Yeah,
And it's a society's value as well, right? Because
absolutely.
Chris, we've spoken about this. Like, where do we place value? And we misunderstand that placement of value on, you know, talent, on different things that people do, what people can give, and that value, that redistribution, is so important. And we talk about a time to reflect and kind of listen and hear people, but it's really a time for action. Like that, you know, we can have all these movements, we can talk about it, we can voice opinions, and that's an amazing step. But at the same time, coming out of it, there has to be fundamental shift and change and action that really pivots the way that we behave, act, and think in society to move as well.
We need to know the value of like the feeling someone walks out of a room listening to live music is really impactful. So we need to just put emphasis on that. When I send someone to one of my talents gigs and they like, that was an amazing night. That was an amazing night. Yeah. And we should have more of those, and we should respect more of those nights, and we should, you know, be aware of it.
Yeah. I mean, find me a business anywhere in any industry that can run 8 months without making $1.
Yeah. It's not easy, huh?
Right. So, and then, I mean, find me an industry globally during COVID that hasn't been subsidized or given a grant or given some sort of scheme to survive.
Yeah.
Right. But find me a part of the world that's really kind of taking care of its arts and culture population the same way it has, I guess, traditional contributors to the economy that they recognize, right? I think, you know, airlines and hotels are being saved, and you know, but art and culture has not been given up, you know, any handouts. You know, so
no, I notice the people that are getting the most affected when they see a video or a band or a virtual thing or content. It's the musicians that are contributing. You know, like everybody that did that video, gosh, I can't even remember, the COVID relief with all the celebrities on a few months at the beginning of COVID, the pandemic, with all the big names, Elton John, all the, you know, the big guys. You know, these guys are performing for free. They're not going to have a concert for 6 months. They're on stage. You know, who's helping them? Fine, okay, these guys are very, very successful, but they're still that at another level. You know.
No, it's interesting how humanity places value and where it places value.
Yeah,
it's super interesting. It says a lot about who we are, but hopefully these circumstances and with every experience, I mean, we kind of learn.
We spoke about this yesterday, the two worlds, right? I mean, you could probably articulate it a lot better, but, you know, these two worlds that we live in, and there's this word, this online world, which, you know, when I was reflecting on our conversation yesterday, it's this online world that we live in. We almost take for granted when we, you know, the amount of talent that we watch online.
Yeah.
And it's just an expectation. Like, I sit there and I'm completely entertained. And you know, there needs to be a way to be able to contribute more to that, not just to share a retweet, a like that's like vanity metrics. There has to be some like other way to kind of like appreciate what you see there on that online space.
There you go. When this is all over, you guys are all going to come to our live event nights.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we could do more than that. I don't know how. We should do a bit more to help. I think it's crazy. Like today, you know, you type into your browser YouTube and you type in any kind of, you know, music or art or, you know, motion art that you want to watch, and it's just a click away. And I think we've kind of misunderstood the value of it because of its ease of accessibility.
Yeah.
You know, I think, like, for example, what's that thing that came out of Berlin, the Colors series, you know, where they have all these artists come on and do a session.
That's an awesome series. Yeah.
That's an awesome series, and it's an awesome platform and brand. And man, I take that thing for granted. I listen to that all day, right? I just put it in my background whenever I have time. I go back and I watch whoever's singing or playing or whatever. But it's phenomenal. But it's I must admit, I'm exactly what Steve described. I don't value it probably as much as I should, because it's just so easily accessible. And I think that's the issue, is that we've the internet and digital experiences are amazing. It's helped society progress, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's given some value to things and less value to others. And unfortunately, I feel like art and culture is on the, bad end of that spectrum.
There
But
are
yeah,
some things that, without going into detail, there are some things starting to come in that are going to be able to change that space. Because I mean, a lot of these industries, when we think about that, it relies on a lot of ad revenue to an
Yeah.
extent, right? Viewership, and that's how that comes about. But there are some changes, and I won't go into the details of it, but where there is that physical contribution. So your consumption is then you earn via your consumption,
Yeah.
and then you can basically push back and give that back to talent or pages that you find interesting. And that's the sort of, when I think about the next 2-3 years, that's the sort of development in that space that I think if you start thinking about how can you value people like Chris and I, how can we put more value back on just being able to watch a YouTube, or how we start our day at Duck Live every morning with Chris's DJ sets. How can we actually contribute and
I go into that. Yeah, that's
That's nice. Well, there you go. That's a live DJ set. I mean, there's no experience anything as good as anything live, to be honest. So, I mean, as much as we go virtual, that experience when you walk out of a concert and it's a sweaty bar or whatever it is, or a small little, hole in the wall with a live musician in the corner, that there's no experience like that virtual ever gain. That I can guarantee.
Yeah. And I also want to kind of ask your perspective on talent in the region.
Sure.
So, I mean, we've spoken a lot about Montreal. We've spoken a lot about, I guess, different artists. We spoke about Berlin just now. But what's the kind of movement or evolution of kind of talent in the region? You spoke about Berkeley. You spoke about all these, the different places where artists go to get, their talents sharpened. But what about the region when it comes to art and culture? I mean, how is that starting to look?
Yeah, art and culture is great. I mean, the talent, we have such great initiatives if we get into the art, and then all the, I mean, speaking of film, something similar to what your wife's doing, Real Palestine, she's the founder.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of independent initiatives. In terms of talent itself, I speak about musicians. There's a mishmash. You have to be able to go through, you need to be a really good talent scout to understand. And that comes with experience, with exposure, with your own understanding of music. And there's a lot out here, and there is, I think, in any industry, in your talent, let's say in your pool of tech industry. So you need to kind of just, I hate saying that, it's really a harsh way, filter. You have to, because with all due respect, some people come out here wanting to be a singer and English is not their mother tongue, for instance. That's a huge thing we have here. Someone wants to learn how to DJ because the the amount of money they can make at a gig is so high, so they learn how to DJ. So it's not organically, let's say, academically grown always. It's the fast life out here. So you need to be able to just know what talent you're comfortable with and who to work with. I'm very picky with our talent, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny when you compare, you were saying you guys in the tech world or whatever. I'd like to say that generally the talent pool has grown.
Yeah.
But I will not for 1 second say that talent has become easier to find.
No.
Right? I would actually, unfortunately, maybe argue the opposite, because the rate of change has not so the rate of influx of talent has not followed the kind of growth of the industry, right? So you have a startup, launching almost every week or every day if you take the region, but the associated talent to those kind of opportunities is not following at the same rate. So it's not like the talent pool. So the startup world has kind of blown up, and I'm so happy that people are super excited about starting companies and digital solutions for the region and whatever industry they're in, but the talent pool has not followed at the same rate.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not, generally, yes, there is more talent, but it's not that they're easy, more accessible than they were. Absolutely not. I actually argue the opposite. I think Steve and I have huge challenges in finding talent in the region, and I hate to say it, we still find ourselves, guilty of looking, outside of the region for talent.
I admitted it with you guys right before. I do the same with my talent. I just admit it.
it's heart-wrenching, and you want to support your region, right? I mean, I don't want to say I'm like this super nationalistic or regionalistic kind of person, but I I don't have a choice, right? And I think that's unfortunate, and hopefully those things will change over time, and it takes a
Yeah,
long, long
we need
time.
the market to be a bit more developed so people are challenged so that they get to the same level of, let's say, people that's outside of the region, and it's getting there, but we just need to be a little bit more challenged, I suspect.
Flexible.
Yeah. When you're
Yeah.
reaching out, let's say I reach out to a musician in London that has to take 5 tubes and lug his guitar on his back and then get to his
Right.
gig to make maybe 200 pounds. That's different than the guy that has to roll up to a 5-star valet. So that's, puts things into perspective. So
So
once
true.
we get to, we get to the point where this guy's going to hustle a little bit harder than maybe this guy, and he gets a little comfortable for 2 years, where my talent, I don't let them get comfortable here, because that's not reality sometimes in our
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
industry. In London, that's a cutthroat music industry. And even if
Yeah,
it's just wedding singers, it's cutthroat. They're really good. They're really good.
yeah, 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 absolutely, absolutely.
You do see some
Wow.
amazing talent. I mean, it's been a long time since when you watch even some of the buskers on the street in
Yeah.
London, I mean, it blows my mind. There's obviously, there are ways in where their talent then is displayed, but
Yeah.
it is crazy the hustle that takes place. It's not just London. There's a ton of cities around.
Absolutely.
But
The real hustle out there. That's the real world there for now.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Sherin. It's been
Welcome,
awesome having you on.
yes, thank you.
Really appreciate it. Hope we'll have another one towards the end of the year, and we can
Yes.
talk about
Post
things.
this. Let's have another one after this is over and say, I'm too busy. I have 30 minutes to give you guys. That's it. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Sherin. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for
Yeah.
taking the time. Have a great weekend.
You
We're
as well,
Thursday
guys.
today.
All the
Thanks a
best.
lot.
Yes.
Stay in touch, okay? Thank
All
you.
right. Bye, Sherin. Thanks
Thanks.
so much.
See ya.
Take care.